Hi, and welcome to my budget with me. So we're going to budget January. I have a January kit from Sara Marie. So what I ended up getting is the calendar header page, a transaction log, sinking funds. I got some different colored labels. And then I have some thin washi, some thick washi. I have a weekly check-in, January budget, business expense and estimated tax, and business budget. So let's get started. Does help when you put it right side up. So I'm going to be setting up the calendar. The calendar is where I actually record all the transactions that come into my checking account, except for items that belong in my sinking funds. So as I do my weekly check-ins, you'll see where I have things like, my groceries and bills that I've paid and things like that will go through in here. And I color code everything for the little labels. You saw those earlier. That's what those labels are for. So groceries will be a color, gas will be a color, my regular bills will be a color, and that's pretty much how I handle my budget. And each week I check in with that week and see where I am with the categories I have the most trouble with. Big ones for me would be groceries and eating out. I have the hardest time keeping in budget for sure in my eating out. It's like my brain just doesn't really even care what I've got in my budget. So I'm trying to do better, especially starting this year with staying under budget with those categories. And here I'm just going to place down all the date dots, and I super fast forwarded through this so we could get through this. I know it's kind of monotonous getting these dots down, but I always like the look of the dots for sure, and I just think it gives it a really cohesive look. And here I'm laying down a piece of thick washi, or at least trying to lay it down straight. I'm having kind of a hard time getting it lined up. And this is where I'm going to be putting the January budget down. I know why I always have a hard time lining those particular items up. So I'm sectioning off my income section, and I just basically list down payroll and miscellaneous for my income. I'm trying to figure out how many lines I'm going to need. I split my expenses between fixed and variable, so I'm trying to figure out where to place everything. And I just love separating the two sections with a piece of thin washi. I just think it makes it look so nice. I'm adding the total strip for my fixed expense, and I did that so I could draw a line and kind of section that piece up. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the strip for the variable expense in place, and then we're going to um, I'm going to start putting in my expenses. So get those in. This to me always seems to take the longest to get put down. I do pre-plan my budget, so I've already figured out how much I need for the month in each category, and so I have that actually off to the side. You don't see that, but I do write out a budget, so that doesn't take me quite so long to put this together. So I'm just figuring out my totals, and um, I'm going to put that in a little bit. So here I've decided I'm going to put in the total strip on the variable, so I can go ahead again and split this out into its columns. You're going to see in a little while that first line is going to bother me that I didn't take it through the strip. So I'm going to go back and put it in. Here now I'm going to get ready to lay down the weekly check-in spread. So I'm going to put another strip of the thick washi up at the top. I just love the colors in this kit. It is so pretty. And some of my favorite colors. Figuring out how many weeks I'm going to need to check in. So trying to determine out my spacing. And then putting down a separate strip just to separate it. Here I'm laying out the sinking fund spread. And it's pretty straightforward. It's just the thick washi and a little strip that you lay in, and just keeping track of how much money you're starting with, how much you need to add, and then towards the end of the month you'll subtract how much you used, and then it just gives you an ending balance. I don't have that many sinking funds. I probably should put one or two more in, which I'll probably think about doing for February, because I forgot to actually put in a sinking fund for my car tags, and I really need to get that in, so we can adjust that going forward. And then I'm going to lay down the transaction logs section. So it's just where you put in your totals, your individual transactions that are part of the sinking funds, where you're spending the sinking fund money. I give myself quite a few pages with the transaction log just because I tend to end up having more transactions than what's good for me. So, but I like to at least skip a few pages. And I'm actually going to use a different washi strips for my business budget. And that's the section I'm getting ready to put in now. I really like it. Even though this was an Erin Condren washi strip, it really went really well with Sara Marie's January colors. It just looks like it was meant to be with it. So laying down a thin strip of washi. I'm going to put in my fixed expenses and then I'll put in my variable. I managed to get those strips lined up pretty good. I have the hardest time lining strips together. I don't know why. And I don't know if you've ever read the book Profit First. It's a really good book. I'm going to start in January actually implementing that system. It's basically, I'm sure you've heard the term of paying yourself first. So you're going to pay yourself a profit first, and he suggests you start off at 1% of all your income coming in. He's a firm believer in at least 5 bank accounts for your business at a minimum so that you don't end up overspending in, or spending your profits and you give yourself just a percentage of operating expense to run your company off of. And the checking accounts really act a lot like, cash envelopes, if you want to call it that. But I'm not going to open up the accounts, which he suggests is a mistake. But I want to, before I go through that trouble, I'm going to try to use YNAB to kind of segregate out into envelopes, if you want to call it that. But you have, compensation, and you also have your profit. You have your operating expense, and then you have an account for taxes. So I really like the theory behind it. We'll give it a try in January and see how that is going to run for us. Here I'm laying down the estimated tax strips, and I didn't end up using the business expense, which I talk about that in the video in the part coming up. Hope you enjoyed that. If you're new to my channel, subscribe and click the notification bell, and you'll receive notifications when I upload to the channel. So anyway, you guys have a great day, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.